Our next storyteller is Rahul Sansi. Yeah, looks like he has some support. A car salesman, a bottle of French champagne, a bear. If you're confused, don't worry, Rahul is here to explain it all. And by the way, this is Rahul's first time on our stage, so give him a really warm welcome. Rahul! His story title is Bear.
I had a bear encounter, but not in the woods. My bear encounter happened in the urban sprawls of Newport Beach, California. It was the end of 2008, and Rose, the girl I was dating at that time, was in the market for a new car. So Rose and I decided to visit our local Mercedes car dealership. We were standing in the parking lot, browsing through cars, when we were approached by a gentleman. He was tanned, he had blonde hair, and he was wearing a tie. And I could tell that he had a lot of product in his hair. He introduced himself and said, "Hi, I'm Don, how can I help you?" Don was the quintessential Newport Beach car salesman. He was polite, he was helpful, and he showed us a number of cars. And Rose, to my surprise, decided to lease a car right then and there. So that evening, when we left the parking lot and we left the car dealership, we were all very happy. Rose was driving a brand new Mercedes. I was excited for her, and Don had made a huge commission. Rose and I ended up becoming friends with Don. He would send us text messages every now and then. Well, he only texted Rose. And to ask her how the car was doing. And then one day, Don invited us to a happy hour. At the happy hour, I remember thinking to myself, wow, Don is such a nice guy. He's so generous. I should probably pay for the drinks tonight. So I offered, and Don quickly accepted. A little too quickly. After the happy hour, Don said, "You guys are such good customers. You even paid for my drinks tonight. I want to take you to a nightclub. I know the people there, and I can get us a bottle service." Now, at that point in my life, I didn't know what the phrase bottle service meant. In fact, I wasn't very familiar with the business model of nightclubs in general. So instead of asking Don what bottle service meant, I did what any guy does when he pretends to be a baller. I said, "Don, let's do it. Let's get those bottle services." Soon, Rose, Don, and I were at the nightclub. We were sitting at our table. We had our own table. I was sitting at the table and looking at everyone around me, and all of a sudden, this sense of superiority engulfed me. I had my own table at a nightclub. I had made it. I was among the social elite of Southern California. The hostess arrived, and she brought us a drinks menu. Don handed me the drinks menu and asked me to pick a bottle of alcohol. I looked at the drinks menu, and it was something I had never seen before. It had two columns. On the left were names of bottles of alcohol, all in French, and next to each name was a number. There were no dollar signs. So I thought to myself, okay, this nightclub only serves French alcohol. And these numbers obviously indicate the size of the bottles in milliliters. The French follow the metric system. There were 3 of us, so I picked a bottle that had a large number written next to it and pointed it out to Don because I couldn't pronounce the name. Don ordered the bottle. A few minutes later, the hostess came back with a beautiful bottle of champagne. Then she asked us for a credit card. Don looked at me and said, "Rahul, You picked the champagne. Why don't you give her your credit card? I was surprised. I was like, Don, we are your guests. You know the people here. You brought us here. You should pay for the champagne. Don said, Rahul, don't worry about it. I know the manager. Let me go and speak with him. I'll take care of it. Don left to speak with the manager of the nightclub. 15 minutes later, the hostess came back and informed us that Don had left the nightclub. He was gone. And then he said, unless you pay for the bottle of champagne, you cannot leave. I was shocked. I felt deceived, but I didn't want to create a scene. So I said, okay, how much is the champagne? I'll pay for it. She said, $900. At that point, I had a moment of mental clarity. I quickly figured out the business model of nightclubs. I also fully and completely realized what the phrase bottle service meant. You only get a table at a nightclub if you also buy expensive alcohol. And then the most embarrassing realization hit me. The numbers next to the bottles indicated their price. I guess I had never seen such expensive alcohol before that night. As I came back to my senses, I realized that I was mad. I was really mad at Don. So I said to the hostess, I'm not paying $900. You can call the cops if you want. A few minutes later, the cops arrived. I explained to the cops what had happened, how I had been cheated. The cops heard my story and said the same thing. You cannot leave until you pay the $900. At that point, I lost it. I started yelling and screaming at the cops. And in my rage, I pulled out my wallet, I took out a credit card, and I threw it on the ground. The hostess was standing right next to me. She quickly grabbed my card, ran it, and brought me a bill for $900. I signed it and was about to leave when something tapped my shoulder. I turned around and I saw myself staring into a torso. It was a huge torso, covered in a black t-shirt. I slowly lifted my gaze to look into the eyes of the giant standing in front of me. I was mesmerized as I was staring into the giant's eyes. Now, at that point, the world was moving in slow motion for me. I had just been duped. I had just paid $900 for a bottle of champagne that I didn't even drink. And I just had a verbal argument with the United States law enforcement officers. So as I was staring into the giant's eyes, I realized that he was saying something. I could see his lips moving. So I asked him to repeat himself. He said, "Do you want your money back?" I was like, "Yes, I do." So he handed me his business card and he left the scene. I looked at the business card and it was empty. There was nothing on it. So I flipped the business card. On the other side, there was a symbol of a giant paw. Below the paw was the word bear and then his phone number. Bear was the bouncer at the nightclub. The next morning, I woke up and I called that number. It was Bear on the other end. He asked me to meet him at the car dealership in a couple of hours. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. But 2 hours later, I was at the car dealership. Bear was standing right outside. I shook his hand, and Bear and I started walking into the parking lot of the Mercedes car dealership. Everyone in the car dealership stopped what they were doing and started staring at us. It was a scene they had never seen before. There was Bear, the 7-foot giant, wearing a black t-shirt and jeans and dark sunglasses with a golden frame. And next to him was me, the skinny Indian dude, wearing khakis, trying to look tough. I wasn't wearing any sunglasses, so I was squinting as I was trying to look tough. Bear was standing in the parking lot. Oh, I'm sorry. Don was standing in the parking lot. He saw us, and he quickly ran into the office of the car dealership. Bear and I walked into the car dealership. We walked to Don's desk. There were no words spoken. Don took out a checkbook and wrote me a check for $900. Ladies and gentlemen, that was my Bear encounter.